Hello, I'm Dr. Conor Bell and I teach bassoon at West Texas A&M University. This video is to help you prepare for the 2023-2024 Texas All-State Audition Music. This video is for number 4 in your Weissenborn book for the ATSSB audition. This etude is a great test for how lyrically and beautifully you can play. The inherent challenge of it are all of the long slurs that go between notes that aren't necessarily happy with being slurred to. Before you even really start in this etude, you need to be sure that you know your basics about flicking or venting with your left thumb, as well as a few slur fingerings for notes in the tenor register. We'll get to those specific fingerings when we get a little further into the etude. To begin, you might already know that we have a lot of keys for the left thumb on the bassoon. For almost all of these slurs, I'm going to be using this key. It's helpful to count from the bottom. Some bassoons might not have this top one. So the 4th key from the bottom, this is a good flick or vent key for all of these up slurs. Anytime you're going to a B natural, like the 2nd note, or an A natural, the 4th note, the C's, you want to be using that key. For the octave D slurs, you'll need to be using this top one. If you don't have the top one, try using this one. It's not ideal, but it's the closest you're going to get without having that key. Alternatively, you can add a really light articulation on that upper pitch to solidify things and make sure you're not cracking. Otherwise, your emphasis on this etude should just be making a beautiful resonant sound. Pay attention to the dynamics. They're terraced in this piece. There are very few crescendos or diminuendos. Instead, we start piano, and then the 2nd phrase is suddenly loud, and then the next phrase is suddenly short. So make sure you're preserving those elements. When I have a sudden change of dynamic, I like to add a little bit of a hairpin doing the opposite to lead up to it so that that change is more dramatic. For instance, before the poco forte that begins the 2nd phrase, I add a diminuendo on the octave G's so that when I go to forte, it seems like a dramatic change. I do the same thing before a jump down to piano. I crescendo as I do just a measure or so later. Take note that some of the cadences or the pauses in this piece have fermatas and caesuras or railroad tracks in between phrases. That means you can hold that note for a long time and take a second before you start the next phrase. Because of that, don't add those where they don't exist. So at the cadences that don't have a fermata or a caesura, keep things in time, keep moving along. When you get to the 2nd half of this, you'll need to know your tenor clef. If you don't already know tenor clef, I suggest memorizing that the top line of the tenor staff is E and the middle line of the tenor staff is A. Focus on those 2 pitches and gradually memorize more and more notes as you go on. This does go kind of low in the tenor staff, which is tricky when you're first learning it. Start by writing in a few guide notes, maybe note names where you tend to mess up or forget where you are. Don't write in every pitch, because then you're just going to be reading in the note names that you write. Your goal should be that once you've been working on it for a little bit, you can erase all of those note names so that you can just read the notes. There are 2 special slur fingerings for this 2nd half that you need to know about. For tenor F sharp, to slur up into it, my default fingering is 2-3, the resonance key, 1-2, and the low F key in my right hand. That's my normal F sharp. To slur into it though, you need to raise that 3rd finger in your left hand. If you do that, all of these slurs will come out cleanly every time. If you don't, no matter how good you are, you're going to be flipping a coin every time to see whether it comes out as a clean pitch or it cracks. The other one is for tenor E. When you're slurring up into these tenor E's, This is actually my default fingering for the pitch, rather than what might be in your fingering chart. It's 1-3 in the resonance key in my left hand and 2-3 in my right hand, no 1. If you raise 1 in the air, the note isn't quite as flat and it slurs up into it much more easily. It also works for E flat. File that away. Otherwise, try to just be as expressive as possible in this piece. While you're working on it, keep it very slow and really just try to sing through all of these slurred intervals. I would start at a comfortable dynamic and then worry about playing at piano once you have a good handle on things. And make sure the airstream stays strong and focused throughout those slurs, not starting on the lower note and then restarting on the upper note.